Folks, let's start with the obvious. Donald Trump is rattled. And when Trump gets rattled, he does what he's always done. Throws spaghetti at the wall and hopes people get distracted by the mess instead of the stain. He never expected the Epstein scandal to stick. He figured the usual playbook would work. Shout, "Hoax," say it louder, get the crowd clapping, and ride off into another golf cart sunset. But this time? Not so simple. See? Even some Republicans are starting to side with Democrats on one simple demand. Release the Epstein files. Just imagine Trump's face when he realized people like Thomas Massie, yes, a Republican, were standing next to Ro Khanna and actual Epstein survivors saying, "Sunlight, please." That's not part of the script he's been rehearsing for years. That's the moment the stage lights went from flattering gold to hospital white. Now, let me give credit where it's due. Survivors stepped forward, told their stories on camera, and braced for the inevitable attacks. And sure enough, Trump didn't disappoint. He went after them. Because if there's one thing this man never resists, it's punching down when he feels cornered. But here's the good news. We're not just going to show you Trump's tantrums. We're going to pull apart the whole performance. And believe me, it's a 3-act circus. Crime in D.C., tariffs from the 1800s, and an Epstein question that sent him spinning. So stick with me. And hey, before we dive in, hit like, smash subscribe. I know you've heard it before, but every tap keeps this show alive. All right, let's head to D.C., where Trump just declared himself the miracle worker who erased crime. Overnight, with nothing more than his presence. Let's roll it.
Look at Washington, D.C. 3 weeks ago. It was the same or worse. And now it's considered a totally safe zone. Restaurants are open. They're bustling. Restaurants, you have to see, restaurants were dying. Nobody wanted to go out. They didn't want to be attacked. They didn't want to be mugged. They didn't want to be attacked even in the restaurant. And you take a look at what's happened. Friends of mine that haven't gone to a restaurant in 4 years, one of them went out 5 times in the last 2 weeks to a restaurant with his family. They feel totally safe. Washington, D.C. is a totally safe city. You're not reporting any crime because there is none. They said crime is down 87%, and I said, no, it's not. It's down 100%. We have a great thing going. I could do that with Chicago. We could do that with New York. We could do it with Los Angeles. So we're making a determination now. Do we go to Chicago, or do we go to a place like New Orleans, where we have a great governor, Jeff Landry, who wants us to come in and straighten out a very nice section of this country that's become quite tough, quite bad.
There you go, folks. So, not just a safe city, a totally safe zone. According to Trump, crime has been eliminated 100%, which is mathematically the same as saying negative crime. In his D.C., robbers are returning wallets, muggers are walking people to their cars, and pickpockets are slipping cash back into your purse just for the thrill of it. This is Trump's trademark move. When he can't control the narrative, he invents a miracle. He can't stop Republicans from siding with Democrats on the Epstein files, so he distracts you with a superhero fantasy. I personally cured crime in D.C. Now I'm taking my show on the road to Chicago, New York, L.A., coming soon to a city near you. But of course, he couldn't stop there. Nope. He decided to impress another world leader in the Oval Office by going on one of his historical rambles about tariffs. And, boy, what a history lesson it was.
You talked about how historic these tariffs have been, bringing in revenue, additional revenue for our country. You've also mentioned before they could possibly replace federal income tax.
Possible.
Do you think that
someday it's possible? It used to be. So if you go back to 1913 is when they ended tariffs. We were the richest ever from 1850. It was all tariffs. We didn't have income taxes. From 1850 to 1913. In the 87s, about 1887, they had the Great National Tariff Act. And it was a group of people that got together because our country was so rich, they didn't know what to do with the money. We had so much money, they didn't know what to do. It was a group of very prominent people that were set up to hand out money to everybody because we were the richest we ever were. Proportionately, we were in 1887, around that time, even in 1913. We ended them in 1913. How did that work out? And then we went to the income tax system, and then we had the Depression. And by the way, a lot of people try and say that, oh, tariffs with the Depression. No, they ended in 1913.
What you just heard is less of a policy argument and more of an improvised bedtime story. According to Trump, the 1880s were so rich we didn't know what to do with the money. So some very prominent people just handed it out to everyone, like Halloween candy. It's history as imagined by someone who skimmed half a Wikipedia page and decided they were ready for a TED Talk. This is what happens when you try to look authoritative without doing the homework. And again, notice the trick. The minute questions about Epstein start heating up. He starts babbling about tariffs from 1887. Anything to change the subject. But guess what? Reporters weren't buying it. Somebody finally asked him directly about Epstein. And that's when the mask slipped.
Right now, there have been survivors of Jeffrey Epstein speaking at a press conference on Capitol Hill. They're calling for these case files, these documents to be released. And Thomas Massey, who is sponsoring a discharge petition to get the House to vote on releasing those documents, says he doesn't believe you're implicated in these files, but many of your friends and donors may be, and he says that's why the Justice Department is redacting them and slow-walking the release. Is the Justice Department protecting any friends or donors, sir?
So this is a Democrat hoax that never ends. You know, it reminds me a little of the Kennedy situation. We gave him everything over and over again, more and more and more, and nobody's ever satisfied. From what I understand, I could check, but from what I understand, thousands of pages of documents have been given. But it's really a Democrat hoax because they're trying to get people to talk about something that's totally irrelevant to the success that we've had as a nation since I've been president. Even if you look at D.C. right now, D.C., it's a totally safe zone. It's called a safe zone. That's a term. It's a term of art. It's a safe zone because it's very safe. You can walk down the street now and nothing's going to happen. No crime, no murders, no nothing. Because we had a lot of problems with certain places, and we still do. All run by Democrats, or for the most part run by Democrats. So what they're trying to do with the Epstein hoax is get people to talk about that instead of speaking about the tremendous success like ending 7 wars. I ended 7 wars. Nobody's going to talk about because they're going to talk about the Epstein, whatever.
His magic word, hoax. He's got it ready for every occasion. Pandemic? Hoax. Investigations? Hoax. Accountability? Hoax. And now, even survivors telling their stories? He treats them like part of a conspiracy. That's not tough talk. That's desperation dressed up as swagger. Think about what's happening here. People who lived through the nightmare of Epstein are bravely speaking out. They're asking for files to be released, not rumors, not gossip, actual documents. And Trump? He's out here comparing it to the Kennedy assassination and bragging about ending 7 wars. Folks, this isn't leadership. It's karaoke night, where he keeps repeating the same chorus, hoping nobody notices the verses make no sense. But the story doesn't end with his rambling. Because outside of his little safe zone bubble, the circus has a new act. Picture this: Congressman Thomas Massey, a Republican, not exactly the Che Guevara of Congress, linking arms with Democrats and saying, yeah, maybe sunlight isn't such a bad idea. That alone probably gave Trump heartburn. And here's why that's delicious. When you've got people like Massey, or even Marjorie Taylor Greene, of all people, still shouting, "Release the files," You know this isn't just some liberal fever dream. If this were just noise, Republicans would bury it faster than Trump buries his tax returns. But nope, they're keeping it alive. Translation: the base won't shut up about Epstein. And when the base won't shut up, the politicians can't either. The real question here is brutally simple. How much power do a handful of billionaires have if they can muzzle even Congress or a president on releasing documents? America struts around calling itself the world's superpower, but apparently a couple of hedge fund creeps can veto sunlight. Folks see that and think, wow, guess the system really is rigged. Spoiler: they're not wrong, and let's give Massey some credit. He's not exactly Trump's pet parrot. He's broken with him before, like on foreign policy votes. That's what makes this bipartisan push sting. And here's the kicker. If you want to win over people in MAGA country, you don't get there by rolling your eyes and calling them by idiots on Twitter. You find common ground, and there actually is some. No dumb wars, more transparency, fixing towns gutted by bad trade deals. That's where you start. Then you earn the right to pitch the bigger stuff. Compare that to Trump's playbook. Always division, always rage, always another cartoon villain. It's great for rally chants, not so great for reality. Now, some very serious people online love to say Epstein is just a distraction. With respect, that's nonsense. You don't get to decide what voters care about from your D.C. think tank cubicle. People decide, and when you're at a town hall talking about health care or veterans' benefits, and the first hand that shoots up is about Epstein, guess what? That's not a distraction. That's the point. Epstein is the symbol. Rich creeps breaking every rule while normal people get stomped on. If you can't talk about that, you're basically telling voters, sorry, I don't get it. And if you don't get it, you don't win. Period. Now let's talk institutions. Trump loves firing sprees, loves the smoke and the fire, loves the fake "you're fired" drama. But burning down the building isn't the same as fixing the plumbing. If people think government only works for the rich, the answer isn't more chaos. It's proving the system can actually serve everyone. The antidote to Trump's fear-mongering isn't more fear, it's inspiration. Imagine this instead. Medicare for all. Killing super PACs dead. Childcare at $10 a day. A living wage. Free public college. 1,000 trade schools. A Marshall Plan for the 21st century. That's not weakness. That's ambition. Trump's selling nightmares. The alternative is selling hope people can actually use. And that's the contrast in full neon lights. Trump's got his endless cliffhangers, his cartoon hoaxes, his imaginary safe zones where crime is down 100%. Meanwhile, the adults in the room are talking about sunlight, reform, and actually building something. Let's rewind to the heart of this. Survivors. Real people. Real pain. They spoke. Trump sneered. Lawmakers from both parties said, "Release the files." Trump panicked and tried to hide behind a bedtime story about tariffs from 1887. Folks, when a guy keeps screaming, "Don't look there," that's exactly where you should plant your eyeballs, because the Epstein files aren't just about Epstein. They're about whether the powerful play by the same rules as the rest of us. Survivors are begging for daylight. Billionaires are begging for a blackout. Which side are you on? That's the whole ballgame. So here's the move. Call your reps. Ask them one yes or no question. Do you support releasing the Epstein files? Don't let them filibuster you with word salad. Pin them down. Write it down. Remember, democracy doesn't run on autopilot. It runs on pressure. From you. So thanks for riding along through Trump's DC crime fairy tales, his 1880s tariff fan fiction, his greatest hits, hoax remix, and this glimpse at what real accountability might look like. If you'd rather have facts than fog, sunlight than circus tricks, hit like, smash subscribe, and send this to that cousin who still believes crime is down 100%. And remember, the truth always finds daylight, even if billionaires keep buying thicker curtains.